Good to see you, Congressman. It's been a while. Are you at the game tonight as either a player or a watcher?
I'm going to go as a fan. I used to grow up going to the Vet, watching Phillies games, and now I go to the Giants, so I'm excited about watching tonight.
Okay. These protesters are going to be there, climate activists and the like. They just got a huge gift, right, with this cobbled-together Schumer-Manchin deal that will address a lot of their concerns. So are they just wasting their time? What do you think?
Well, I think the activism around the country is one of the reasons we have the deal, and it's a great deal for the country. I mean, it's going to unleash trillions of private dollar spending. That's what people are missing. But the venture capital, the private sector is going to put trillions of dollars now because of the clean tech tax cuts into a renewable moonshot. And I think this is going to be transformative. We're going to be making this stuff in the United States. It's great. I hope the climate activists will celebrate some of what it could get done.
You know, spending kind of got us in this pickle. Are you concerned that, you know, putting it on warp speed here is just going to make things worse?
No, for two reasons, Neil. One, the trillions that I'm talking about is actually incentivizing the private sector to spend over the years. It's not government spending. Two, the person who's in the room cutting this deal is Joe Manchin, and he's been talking about inflation from day one. He's got provisions in this bill to lower the deficit. There are provisions in there to lower prescription drug costs. There are increases of taxes that are deflationary. Larry Summers has
wait a minute. You've got a lot of taxes in here on corporations, say the super wealthy and all of that. How is raising taxes on anyone in an environment like this ever beneficial?
Well, because it's anti-inflationary, because it lowers the deficit and it means that the Fed has to buy less.
Do you really think this is going to lower the deficit, Congressman?
It's $300 billion, as I understand the framework, is going to be put towards deficit reduction.
I could put a framework and say I'm going to lose, 10 pounds. And then people say, well, Neil, you need to lose 50. I guess what I'm saying here is this is not the first time a program has been introduced as paying for itself and then some. Not a one ever has. So what makes you think this is going to be different?
Two things, Neil. One, Larry Summers, who, as you would acknowledge, has been the biggest voice against inflation, says this bill is a good bill, that this is going to lower the deficit, it is going to lower inflation. And Joe Manchin would never sign on something that was inflationary. I mean, he has been unwilling to sign on to any of the bigger packages. And so I think this is a bill that is focused on lowering prescription drug costs, focusing on increasing taxes on corporations that aren't paying them, and making fundamental investments in clean technology.
All right, let's say it does all of that in an environment right now where inflation is still a problem, and the administration is making the same pitch that you just did there. But the administration's track record on everything from we're not in a recession to discovering we are, to inflation being transitory, to discovering that it's not. I mean, you can understand why the American people are saying, I don't know, right?
I get it. That's why I invoke Larry Summers, because he was not for some of the earlier spending. He has been correct about inflation, and he is saying that he has looked at this bill and he believes that this is the right economic policy. And
so
Joe
you're
Manchin
hooking all of
also
this on Larry
credible.
Summers, and then if he likes it, you like it. The fact of the matter is, it's a lot of spending with money we don't have. Of course, that's not new, but on top of the spending we've already seen, why sort of poke the beast here? I mean, inflation's been beastly.
But a lot of this is lowering costs, right? I mean, lowering medical costs and prescription drug costs, that by definition is lowering inflation.
If it ever comes to pass. If it ever comes to pass, right?
Yeah, having investments and making things in America, that's better than having it shipped across the ocean. That's going to lower costs. Having tax revenue be put towards lowering deficits, that's going to mean less federal borrowing. That's going to lower costs. So this is not some big social spending bill.
All right. Well,
this is a very targeted bill.
We can maybe just see this differently, and I respect your opinion on a lot of things, Congressman, but we're going to be hearing from the president in a little under 2 minutes, and he is going to probably talk a little bit more about what you just did, but he is also, no doubt, going to have to address this GDP report that came out. As you know, it was negative. So technically, by the classic definition, we're in a recession. Do you agree with that we are officially in a recession?
Well, it's the economists who officially declared that. I will acknowledge that GDP growth has slowed and that we're in a difficult economic time, and I'll acknowledge that we have inflation and we've got the Fed
well, that's not what
increasing
it
interest
didn't
rates.
just slow, it contracted, it went the other way. So it wasn't slowing, it was contracting. So we've had 2 back-to-back quarters of that. That is the classic, you're quite right, not the only definition of a recession, but do you, when you go back to your constituents, acknowledge, guys, we're in a recession, we're going to get out of it, but we're in a recession right now. What do you tell them?
You know, my constituents actually are more concerned about the gas prices, about food prices, about airlines getting canceled, about the baby shortage, food shortage. And so what I tell them is that we have to lower prices, and this bill that we're going to pass will help do that.